It's Melissa Wiringi here. I'm about to read the fourth chapter in Domestic Violence on Ice. This one's starting new in Sydney. Now, if you haven't watched before, I recommend popping back and having a look at the introduction, which you can find on my Facebook page and under videos. I recommend watching that because it just gives you a bit of background. I like to say I'm not looking for any pity. I don't want any sympathy. That's not really what this story is about. So that's really important. And also just a reminder, if it triggers anything for you, it's really important for you to go and talk to someone. So whether that means you go and speak to a support team, a women's refuge, whether you go and speak to some friends or family, that's really important. And I say that because this book, it does get a little bit intense at times for some people. And if it brings up stuff, well, it's a really good opportunity for you to go and talk to people about it. So that's that. And just my shout outs to all my regular people that have been watching. It's really been great to see your comments and messages and things like that. So thank you so much for watching and enjoy. Starting new in Sydney. I arrived in Sydney mid-June. Wesley's sisters picked me up from the airport. We went home and chatted half the night. We got along well. They were excited for me and excited their brother was coming over. I guess they knew what kind of life he had back home and were thrilled to know he would have a chance to make changes and have an amazing life. The first night I wrote my hopes and my dreams. I know he's at home missing me. I know he's thinking about me, and I'm happy. Here with his family. I've done the right thing. I know I have. And now I want him here too. Here to share the happiness, the smiles, share everything. I know he will love it too. A week later, I wrote, and what will it take to have you stay here, my love? What will be enough for you to stay? And again, I'm not enough. Will your sisters be enough? Will your nephews be enough? Will the promise of love, life, and a hope be enough? And my heart cries. Because my heart is afraid. My heart is afraid that you will break it. My heart is afraid you'll let it go. My heart is afraid of losing you. This is love. The heart yearning for what it misses most. About 2 weeks after I arrived, Westley planned to visit Sydney. I was more than excited and happy he was coming. I had hoped he would like Sydney and enjoy being with his family. He wanted to find out if Sydney was a place he liked, if he wanted to live in a city. He told me visiting would help him decide if he would come back or not, or if he might stay. Some days I didn't feel hopeful. I wasn't sure he would come over for good. Everything was still up and down. Just before Wesley was due to arrive, he told me he wouldn't move to Australia. I wrote, and all hope is gone. He took from me the thing that kept me going, hope. Hope which kept me smiling. Hope which kept me from crying. Hope that have kept these tears from falling until now. But someone wise told me I have to look out for myself, because what happens if I end up by myself? During Wesley's time in Sydney, we connected. He told me truths he had never spoken of before. I felt he had fully let his guard down. He showed me his pain, the grief in his heart, his bit of darkness. What I saw was someone in need of my love, my healing. I thought I could help him. I felt like wrapping him in my arms to make him feel better. That night was the closest we ever got. Somehow I loved him more for it. I mistakenly thought he would open up more as time went on. Instead, he became more defensive. It seemed he felt threatened. I knew things no one else knew. He put his walls back up. I spent the next 2 years trying to get him talking again, but it never happened. 4 days after Westley arrived, we fought again. There were a few arguments during the 2 weeks he was in Sydney. When he went home, he left me with a promise to come back in August for a 2-month stay. I was happy he was coming back. After he left, his sister moved out to Riverwood. I didn't enjoy the longer commute, so I moved to my friends where I slept on the couch for a while. Westley wasn't happy about my new abode, but he didn't get much say in it. He made plans to move to Sydney for a while. It was a plan that changed every other day. Some days he said he was coming over to find a job and live. Other days it would not be until November. Sometimes he decided he wasn't going to move at all. He was all over the place. I wrote, "Damn, I would do anything to have him here, but he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to stay here. He doesn't want to live here. So are we doomed? I guess I'm at a low point. It's not like me to be negative, but I just don't feel right. I feel wrong. I feel like maybe we aren't right. I guess I only feel like this because he's so far away and I need him. And I know when I'm with him, everything is different. When we're together, I don't want to be apart from him. And I know he loves me and will do nearly anything for me. But is nearly enough?" He told me there was a chance he could be locked up for 7 months shortly before he came over again. I don't know if he said that to frighten me or if he said that to make me feel crazy. My last diary entry before he came over says, "We've been arguing so much lately. We've been apart for over 3 weeks. We miss each other so much, but it feels like we are living different lives. I don't even know what's going on back there most of the time. It's like all I want is to feel the love, but we are too far away from each other. He's telling me not to ask him to choose, when in a way I feel exactly the same. I don't want him to ask me to give up my life either, but if we're going to work, one of us has to give up something, because we can't go on living our lives separately." Westley confirmed he'd come over mid-August, but I was uncertain if he would stay a month, 2 months, or to live. He wouldn't commit to staying, and the length of time changed frequently. He was coming back though, so I was filled with hope. Not long after moving to my friends, I found an apartment. It was in the same complex he lived in, and I was glad to have a friend close by. I loved being close to the city. I told Westley it would be our home. I thought he was following me, chasing me, and I thought it proved his love. I know there was love, but it was crazy and insecure. I wrote, "I've either made the best decision ever or the worst mistake ever. On the one hand, I have my dream man moving in with me. On the other hand, he may not want this, and he may leave me, and it may break me. It's the classic risk versus reward. The larger the potential risk, the greater the potential reward. So while I could end up totally broken like never before, I could end up happier than ever before." Looking back, I must have recognized the potential to be hurt. The words are emotional for me now because I was absolutely right. Unfortunately, I did end up broken like never before. At the time, I didn't realize happiness is an internal state of mind, grown within a person. A person, place, or thing cannot make someone happy. I didn't realize Happiness takes time, dedication, and practice. Sadly, I thought my happiness was a result of having a great relationship, living in a nice place, and owning nice things. When Wesley first arrived, we were okay. We had stupid little arguments about nothing. Maybe we were just adjusting. I don't know if he was trying to control me or if it was his fear and insecurity coming through. One day, he wanted me to go swimming with him. I was tired and didn't want to go to the pool that day. My refusal turned into a fight, and I didn't understand why. I headed over to my friend's apartment and hung out instead. Maybe I wanted to prove a point. I had a friend, and I would take time out if I needed it. After that fight, I didn't write for about 3 weeks. It seemed we were happy for a while. I wrote about feeling settled. Wesley decided to go home in November, but he said maybe he would return in February. There was always a carrot. Wesley's sister and I noticed apartments going up everywhere around us. We thought he could find work again as a plasterer, and the money was far better in Australia than New Zealand. He could make a small fortune if he tried. It seemed pointless though. He kept saying he would go and find out about work, but he never actually did anything about it. Maybe he had confidence issues, maybe he didn't want to work. I don't really know and never really found out. I know Wesley missed his older brother terribly. I didn't know anyone who was so close with their family. He rang his brother almost daily. I didn't understand it. Looking back, I assume his brother was his previous life dependency. He needed someone around to help him with his life. His brother had always been that person to him. One of Wesley's sisters had a little boy, and kids came up. He told me he wanted a son. I was naive, probably a little stupid. I was a bit doubtful at the start. He convinced me we could manage with kids. One night we asked for a baby boy. The stars were out, and I'm sure that was the night our wish was granted. I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. I don't know if this was a bit of manipulation, a way that created a reason to go home. Early in September, I discovered we were having a baby. I brought home tests and did 3 of them, and the results were all pale, so I wasn't really sure. Wesley thought he knew, but I visited the doctor to be sure. She confirmed the pregnancy, and I was excited. I ran home smiling. When I told Wesley, he didn't say much. He didn't show any happiness, and he didn't seem excited. He went back into the apartment and played PlayStation for the rest of the day. I felt pretty hurt and disappointed. I wrote, I was so happy I had tears in my eyes. So why am I crying? Why do I feel like this is one-sided? Why do I feel like I am the only one happy about this? Why do I feel like I just need him here holding me? Why do I feel like he's just not taking it seriously? It's not every day you discover your life is going to change. It's not every day you find out you're going to have a baby. And yet here I am, crying, because he's not here with me. He's out there playing stupid PlayStation, and I'm here crying. What have we done? Have I just made a huge mistake? Am I about to ruin my life? It's too late now. I got what I wanted. I thought I was giving Wesley what he wanted, but he's not taking it seriously. I don't think he knows what he wants, and that's my dilemma. I didn't write much after this. There was only one entry from October talking about my pain, and I've been trying to get my head around this baby. I felt like my diary was beginning to turn into an angry venting place. I wrote, I should try to write when I'm happier. This is turning angry. I suffered from horrible morning sickness and a lot of cramping pain. Wesley looked after me during those times. One night I was in agony. He lay next to me and rubbed my tummy to help my pain go away. It's possibly the only time I felt real admiration for him. I told him I would have felt honored to be his wife. I felt love and gratitude. I realize now that this is how it should always feel, not just once every now and then. I wish I knew back then. At the time, I was just grateful for any show of kindness, love, and affection. I often took long hot baths. Some days he feared something had happened to me. He would check in to make sure I was okay. They were the moments when I felt he truly cared. I felt loved in his kind moments. It wasn't like he was completely horrid all of the time, but he was so mercurial. 1 minute caring, affectionate, and loving, the next nasty, angry, and wild. He was unpredictable. I lived day to day wondering what personality might show up tomorrow. I didn't realize it isn't right to be continually in a state of limbo, walking on eggshells, a state of anxiety always at play. These are things to watch out for. They may not be obvious, but they could be signs that something's not right. My doctor worried I could lose the baby and she ordered me to rest. I wasn't allowed to work. One day she saw me carrying the groceries home and told me off. She really wanted me to rest. Often I felt awful. I had to leave work quite early quite a few days. Some days I couldn't even make it in. Money became tight. I stressed about how we could afford to live and I was scared. Amongst the fear and anxiety, I was trying to mentally redesign my life, my expectations, and my dreams. Reality started settling in. I realized there was no going back now. I wasn't maternal. I didn't do kids. I wondered how we would cope without help from our parents. I'd always been a career girl. A baby meant I had to give up my job. I was confused because work was who I was and all I had achieved in my life. I finally had a great job and was being trained as the only multi-skilled person in my office. I had an opportunity which would have allowed me to progress wherever my dreams led me. I dreamed someday I would work at the consulate. For a moment, I had everything in front of me, but I was no longer sure I could stay in Sydney. I began letting go of my dreams. I found it quite difficult to get my head around this concept. I would no longer be a rich, successful girl. I would be a mother. I didn't have a clue how to take care of a child. My fear made me want to be close to my mum. I felt like she'd support me, but she was living in our hometown. We made the decision to return home to start our family. It was on the condition that the move was not permanent and our children would not grow up back there. He agreed and promised there would be no dealing. We continued fighting. One fight was about a week before we headed home. I remained home while Westley had gone out for a bit with his sister, her boyfriend and cousin. They came home late. Maybe I was angry with him. My memory of this is pretty distant. Something happened. It involved a McDonald's cheeseburger, and it ended with him kicking a hole in our bedroom door. I didn't understand the aggression. It was violent and intimidating, making me cry. I wasn't afraid he'd hurt me at this point, but I was upset. He didn't have any ability to hold himself back from destroying things just to make his point about something seemingly so small. At the end of November, we were on a plane, flying back to our hometown. 6 months had made a difference. Life at home was worse than when we had left. And that's chapter 4. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I would love it if you can like my video over on Facebook. And if you're wanting to watch the rest of it, you can find the link under the videos tab on my Facebook. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will record another one during the week, and I haven't decided what day yet, so I'll let you know when I know. Have a great night. Bye.